Downhill World Cup racing has been around for about 30 years now, with legendary tracks such as Mont Saint-Anne, Schladming, places like Maribor, where racers just couldn't wait to get there and ride them. Plus, back in the day, you'd often find those top World Cup downhill racers in just one bar in whatever mountain town we'd be in after the race. Things have changed over the years, and I was fortunate to spend 10 years racing World Cup downhill, so I've got some great memories of that. But today, I'm going to be speaking to a certain 2 times world downhill champion to talk to him about the bikes, how things have changed, the tracks, and the lifestyle. You know, you've been racing downhill for, well, when did you start racing World Cup downhill?
2008 was my first season.
And then you've been racing, you know, UK and junior stuff for a long time before that.
Yes, well, from when I was like 11, and I'm now 28. Jesus.
And along the way, you've won a couple of bits here and there, including, well, 2 world championships that, you know, any world championship is pretty amazing. So 2 downhill world championships is worth writing home about, I suppose. And something I wanted to talk about was like the tracks. You know, especially when I started, there was a few legendary tracks, Nevergale, places like that, and Maribor was one, Schladming another.
Yeah.
Champery's on that list, and you managed to win the biggest race there. What do you think about that track specifically? Is, you know, what's it like compared to the rest?
I think now it's not what it used to be by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's a lot more tamed down. I didn't actually get a chance to go. I was just in the Alps and I never got a chance to go there because of the weather, actually. Funny enough. I didn't want to go. I know what it's like over there now. It's all hard pack and there's not really much dirt. So you couldn't really can't really ride it like I did then. Now I don't think, because it's just rock hard and in the wet it would just be shiny and slippery until it rained like properly. But back then, obviously they had the World Cup in 2007, which you will have done.
Yeah.
And I think even when I won there, it was even, well, it's evidently when you watch the videos that it's much different now, much different then. But it was still real, you know, like it was still steep and it was nothing like any other race we had on the World Cup. So it was steep. It was really challenging. I guess coming from where I do, we were good in the rain and we ride steep stuff like that in the mud and in the slop all the time. So that's probably helped me a little bit. But yeah, as opposed to that, I think the week before that World Champs, we were in Val di Sole, and that's quite similar, I guess, but a bit softer. But yeah, definitely it's not this, you don't get that thing at that sort of track anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that was something, you know, when I grew up, I started racing World Cups in 2000, the 10 years of that. And there was, you know, 1 track a year maybe. I mean, definitely Champery was the extreme end, but I would say there's a track a year where there'd be something that was really, really difficult just to ride. Never mind go down fast. Like Champery, especially the first year we rode, was some parts were almost impossible to ride.
Yeah.
But do you get stuff like that where it's, you know, I know tracks sometimes faster now, maybe TV, whatever. But
we have Andorra, which is in the rain and in the really bad weather. That's challenging. It's steep at the bottom, and at the bottom is where you're the most fatigued, I guess. So Andorra's challenging. I think Maribor on the wrong day, if you like, can be more challenging than others with that big rock garden that's still there. That rock garden is the same now, so I guess the only difference now is the bikes are much more capable potentially.
Well, yeah, that's what I wondered. You know, it's been a while since I've raced a downhill bike, but you've ridden a lot of different bikes, Lapierre, Mondrake, Saracen. But, you know, do you think it's been gradual, you know, increases, or have there been a few big leaps? And do you think the bike you ride now is, you know, how much better, 10% better than the bike you started racing downhill on?
I think the bike we started racing on, I started racing on the Lapierre, in its day was a really good bike. We had good good components and everything like that. And then moving forward, the wheel size changed. I think that's the main things that have changed. And now I think the suspension has gotten a lot better. Fox have a really good platform with their suspension, and I think the bikes just getting as big as they have has been a massive change, because I watched races back from like 2011, when the year that I won the Worlds in Champery, and I watched my first podium run in Fort William, and it looks like I'm just hurtling down the mountain with no care in the world. And I guess that's what it was like, because you had to sort of hold on to the bike like that. Whereas now, with the bikes being longer and bigger wheels, I think you have it's a lot easier to ride that bike faster. And over the years, people have said to me, "Oh, you don't ride like you used to. You don't." I think the tracks don't allow you to ride like that anymore, and the bikes are so much better that you don't really ride like that anymore.
Yeah, and it's, we've seen some pretty incredible seasons the last few years with, obviously Bruni and Piron riding really well. Yourself, you're up there as well, battling and winning against those guys. Do you think the bikes have changed the way, you've ridden all the bikes, the old ones, new ones. Do you think it's changed the way everyone rides? Because I totally agree. I think the bikes, I've jumped from an old bike to a new one, and it feels like it's a foot longer at the front and the back, but It feels good. It feels balanced, but a lot bigger. But do you think it's changed the way that this generation of downhill racers ride their bikes?
I think what it has changed is the tracks. So then you don't have the ability to ride like you used to. Like I was just saying, I've just come back from the Alps, and I used to go to the Alps before it was a big thing. I would go there on my summer holidays from being 11 years old. And riding the tracks then, say Plenny, I think it's the main line down Morzine and the Plenny. It was amazing. It was all you went there to do. And then if you dived off of the Plenny into the single tracks, like it was like, whoa, this is real. This is like really steep. This is really sketchy. Whereas now, I think I did one full run down the main Plenny line in Morzine. And that was by a mistake, because I missed a offshoot, if you like. So the bikes have changed so much, and now people don't ride the same trail, so it's difficult to even compare.
And you're riding the mixed wheel size bike now, are you?
I do, yeah. I'm on the mixed, yeah.
And is that something that I know I don't want to talk about you being short, but I find it, at 5'10", a big back wheel can limit me a little bit. So is that something, or is it just for the complete handling characteristics of the bike you chose?
It's a little bit of both. So even with the 27.5 back wheel, I ride off the back of the bike quite a lot, I think, and I'm always buzzing my ass. Anyway, and then I went back to the 29 to try. It must have been the middle of last season, and I noticed it way more how much I hit my ass on the wheel. So yeah, that is a factor. But the main reason is just the handling and the ease of turning and in and out of the corners. Whereas on the 29, it was just a little much for me.
Yeah, right.
There's trails like I was riding just out in the Alps just now, thinking, but if I had a 29, I wouldn't get around some of these corners.
Talking about a little bit, going away from bikes and tracks, more about the lifestyle of downhill racing.
Yeah.
When I started, there was a few people on the circuit like Steve Peat, Palmer, Cedric Gracia, who loved.
Showing your age now, Neil.
Yeah, who loved racing bikes fast, but also loved having a good time off the track. Yeah. And I definitely enjoyed that part of it. And, it seems that lifestyle part of downhill racing has changed to almost where up to the pro motocross style, where everyone is doing everything they can to be fast. Would that be true?
I think so, yeah, because you can't leave any stone unturned anymore. When you're battling at the front for half a second, less than half a second, and I think, you can't be going out partying. I think them boys used to even drink before the races, so That's definitely not the case anymore. I think there's a few lads still get out on a Saturday night or a Sunday night and really let the hair down and then kick back in on Monday morning and get back on the programme. But for me, I've never really been a big drinker, so maybe when I was a bit younger we would enjoy going to the after party. But that was when you would have like a more specific after party where everybody would go, whereas now it's not so much like that. I remember like after parties in Schladming and stuff like that. I think it was 2008, and I think they just wrecked the place. Mont Saint Anne has a good after party, and that's good. When you're over there, it's a bit different because you don't have anything, I guess, the next weekend.
To have a look at how some bikes have changed in the last 20 years, let's specifically look at the very first bike I raced the World Cup back in 2000, this GT DHi. The GT DHi actually had proper suspension that worked. Good angles, had some adjustability as well, especially on the rear end. You could swap out the chainstay length, so adjusting your wheelbase as well, and the BB height and head angle. It had it all, and it was ridden very successfully by Steve Peat, actually winning World Cups on one. Other people like Fabien Barel, Eric Carter, Cachiripo, Sabrina Jonier and Novin Lacailleur rode this bike. This is the very bike I rode to an 18th place finish at the World Cup downhill in Les Inn in 2000. Weighed in about 39 pounds. It was USA designed, 6061 aluminium, has 220mm of travel, or should I say 9 inches, as that's how you'd have said it at the time, but only 180mm up front. 26-inch wheels, 12mm bolt through rear hub, actually Hadley hub. I think they're the only people that I can recall who made that hub at the time, 150mm wide. The head angle was adjustable and it was either 66 or 67 degrees, seat tube angle of 70 degrees. Horizontal top tube length was 584mm for a medium or 603 for a large. And that's the big difference between these old bikes and new ones. Riding the old bike, it just felt so small. It was a medium, and that's the size I've always ridden, but it's much shorter than a modern downhill bike. To the new bike, well, there's definitely some similarities, although much more polished than the old bike. So the cassette might as well be a road cassette. It's a 1024, although it's only 7 speed, and it is a downhill cassette now rather than just a road one smashed onto it. A coil shock, you've got adjustable geometry, except for I've got 3 different options for chainstay length, and I've got different leverage ratios I can change on some inserts on the shock, so very clever stuff. Some nice little touches, like back in the day you didn't have a direct mount stem, you just stuck your normal 50mm stem on top of a big old steerer, so that is much nicer. Big brakes, although the brakes back in the early 2000s, that's when they were just starting to get good, so not huge differences there. This bike is aluminium. There are some downhill racers or some downhill bikes that are carbon, but there's still a bit of a split. I know Loic Bruni has been pretty vocal about the fact that he still likes using aluminium components, rims. I think he runs an aluminium frame as well. Am I wrong? He is. He does. Jack nodded. So definitely, a mix of materials, but this one is aluminium as it was back in the day. But the biggest differences really between this and the old bikes is in the sizing and geometry.